I spoke a short time ago with the opposition leader Peter Dutton, where we covered a range of issues, including those forecast gas shortages. But I began by asking about Paul Keating's comments on AUKUS and what it was about those comments that Mr Dutton objected to the most.
I think the comments were out of order, to say the least, and I think it distracts from what's been a very important deal. AUKUS has been years in the making, and the government's been able to build on that work. They've made the announcement. There's a bipartisan position to support it, and I suspect Mr Keating is reflecting a vein within the Labor Party, particularly on the left, that aren't happy at all with this deal, and that's always bedevilled the Labor Party in national security and foreign policy, and I guess we're seeing that at play here as well. I think he's just putting a voice to a very significant undercurrent within the Labor Party.
Was this AUKUS deal similar to your plan given on Sunday Agenda 2 years ago? You told me you wanted to lease a Virginia-class boat first to fill that capability gap.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I think the Virginia-class is best in class. One of the things you need to be very careful about in defence acquisition, and our country's made the mistake many times before. In part, it was the problem with the French submarine. Is if you're buying a first type, a first new submarine, a frigate, a tank, even helicopters that are modified, it takes the second or the third or the fourth to come off the production line before you can iron out all of the difficulties, and it's what ends up taking much longer. It's why you have delays in these projects. It's why it costs billions of dollars more, and you need to be very careful about going to a new, fresh design. And the beauty in my mind, and why I started those discussions with Lloyd Austin, the Defence Secretary in the United States, was because I thought we could lease the Virginia-class, and I thought that we could get the Virginia-class submarines off the production line out of Connecticut, and that was the most efficient way, the most cost-effective way, and just given the circumstances that we're in, the time that we live in, I think it was the quickest way to get those submarines into our service, and Richard Marles has executed that plan and delivered on that idea, and I'm very pleased that he has.
Are you concerned then about the UK element? That's newer technology, isn't it, that comes at the back of it, that part of the plan?
Well, I expressed concerns about that a while ago. I have every faith in the British industrial system and the ability for the new design to be designed efficiently and at the lowest possible cost and delivered into service. But the government secured up to 5 Virginia-class submarines. They've certainly said that 3 so far are locked in. I hope that they can increase that to the 5. Because that will be a very important asset for us to own. It provides incredible deterrence capability. Somebody who's thinking about a strike against us or one of our allies or our partners thinks twice if you have that submarine in your fleet. And I think the British design, obviously off the back of the current Astute class, is a new generation. So it does carry risk, there's no question about that, but I'm sure the government's put in place measures to mitigate that risk, and that'll be part of their thinking and part of the negotiation with the Brits.
I wanted to ask about how to pay for this. Bill Shorten said yesterday on this channel that the NDIS should not be cut in order to pay for it, but doesn't the NDIS need to be reined back?
Well, I think there are 2 separate issues here. If the government's, across every program in their budget, if they're identifying where money's not being spent efficiently or where there's waste, well, the government has an obligation to act, because the fact is that people work hard for their money. They pay their taxes and they expect the government to spend it efficiently. And I guess the points that I made in my budget and reply speech last year was that we've strongly supported and still do the NDIS because it provides dignity and support to people who have profound disabilities, and we want it to be a sustainable system. But Bill Shorten himself has pointed out that there's money that's being wasted or not being spent appropriately on those who are most in need. So if the government's aware of that, then they need to address it. In relation to the expense on the submarine and the other elements that are coming in AUKUS as well, because the other side of the AUKUS deal was around artificial intelligence, around quantum computing, around the space investment that we need to continue to make, the hypersonic weapons and the counter hypersonic weapons program, all of that is crucial as well to the defence of our country. The government needs to explain. I mean, they're either going into more debt, they're cutting programs and expense in other areas of government expenditure, or they're going into more debt. There's no magic pudding solution here, and Labor telling you that this is cost neutral and over the forward estimates there'll be no additional cost. I mean, nobody believes that. So they need to be credible and upfront with the Australian public that there is a cost that has to be incurred to keep our country safe, because it is an uncertain period over the next decade or two or three, and this is how we're going to provide for it. And hopefully we'll see some of that in the May budget.
Well, they would say, I guess, we've got this super tax change, that's going to be $2 billion a year. At least that will pay for some of it. What would you say to that?
Well, Andrew, I mean, no credible commentator, financial commentator is suggesting that they'll raise anything like that. It's got all the hallmarks of Jim Chalmers when he was working for Wayne Swan as his chief of staff for the mining tax. I mean, all they did was scare investment, and they ended up raising no money. And I think that the same thing's going to happen here. People will either unwind arrangements or they'll get around what the government's providing here. So I would doubt very much that they raise anything like that. But I do know what they're doing at the moment is scaring younger people from investing into superannuation.
All right.
It should be a stable asset class. And if the government has changes to make, if they want to break an election promise, frankly, they should do it prospectively and take that change to the election.